What is today? This retired person never knows. It's Sunday. It's Sunday. It's June 10th. And welcome to Temple Isaiah, JFK in Crisis. Our playwright is over there, From the Bedroom to the War Room. It's a 19-song musical comedy written and created by Phil Becker, who will answer all your questions afterwards. There will be a very short intermission just to give the cast a break to take care of things they may need to take care of. When the show is over, we will transform our cocktail room into a dessert room, and we'll have a chance to mingle and meet the cast. But I don't want to babble for too long. And I think that's about, cards. Anything else? Would you like to say something?
Yes, just
Casual?
Just tell us, write on the cards what you remember, what you like, what you don't like, and make suggestions on how to improve this beautiful piece. Thank you.
I have to say, I've been in and out of here for the last 3 weeks. They've been diligently rehearsing. I've caught bits and pieces of the different songs. Oh, I did want to tell you a little bit about Phil, even though it's in the playbill that I hope you read. But you might recognize some of the songs, as he used to work at Y&R, Younger Group Band, back in the day, right?
Right.
And so from commercials to Broadway. So this is very off-Broadway. So without any further ado, let's begin JFK in Crisis.
In 1962, when the Broadway hit was Camelot, with King Arthur, Guinevere, Merlin, and Lancelot in Camelot. And of course, the kingdom needs a jester and a troubadour. Cuba had just turned red, and JFK was busy in bed. JFK went from the bedroom to the boardroom, to the war room, from woman to woman, from the state of affairs to his state of affairs. JFK saved the world while getting laid.
In his brief time as president, John F. Kennedy dealt with more than his share of crises, but none more explosive than the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, an event that could have ended the world. And now, we're going to bring Robert Oppenheimer to you, the inventor of the atomic bomb, because that bomb led us to the Cuban Missile Crisis. And so we brought Robert here today to speak to you and tell us how the atom bomb works. Robert?
With hydrogen to use your lithium deuteride and natrium in situ. Refine a cylinder plutonium-239 to place inside of the deuteride. Form a thick foam cylinder of plastic coating outside. The radiatively exploding X-rays symmetrically compress the plastic and detonate the second stage when you mix a little bit of lithium-6. When you mix a little bit of lithium-6. Ba-doo-bum, ba-doo-bam-boo-doo-bam-boo-dum. Ba-doo-bee-boo-bam-bee-bam-boo-bam-boo-dum. Ba-doo-bam, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-dee-boo-bam-boo-dum. Ba-dum, boo-ba-ba-dee-boo-dee-dum. Manifold extension of explosive energy. We're talking 1,000 times larger than anything you've ever seen when you mix a little bit of lithium-6. When you mix a little bit of lithium-6. Just a little bit of lithium-6. Just a little bit of lithium-6. Just a little bit of lithium-6.
At the crossroads of his presidency during the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK proved great in affairs of state.
As for the state of JFK's affairs, well, I was a part of that. I'm Marilyn Monroe. I sang Happy Birthday, Mr. President in May of 1962. But by the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis everyone keeps talking about, later in October, I was the late, great Marilyn Monroe.
She was the late, great Marilyn Monroe.
But before we get into the juicy parts, my affair with JFK and my untimely death, here's a bit more stuff about the affairs of state.
Father, how can you tell the Americans that we are turning out nuclear missiles like sausages? I know for a fact as an engineer myself that we only have 2 or 3 of them.
The Americans are stupid and are more gullible than you give them credit for, Sergei. In the 1960 presidential election, when Kennedy ran against Nixon, didn't he say the U.S. was behind the Soviet Union in a so-called missile gap?
Yes, I remember, but what about your other little problem?
What other little problem?
Our missiles can't reach Washington, D.C. from Moscow.
Son, I want you to look in these binoculars and tell me what you see.
Beautiful blonde in the last row. I mean, a beautiful view of the Black Sea.
Well, I see American nuclear missiles aimed at my Dhaka. The missiles are based in Turkey, 5 minutes away, right across the water, about to destroy my villa. But I intend to give the Americans a taste of their own medicine. Mother Russia is ascending. Recently, we launched the Sputnik satellite and put the first man in space, our cosmonaut, Yuri Gagarin. The United States, and particularly President Kennedy, are in decline. JFK was indecisive at the Bay of Pigs. I bullied him at our meeting last year in Vienna. But we must strike while the Iron Curtain is hot. I am going to secretly put nuclear missiles in Cuba that can reach Washington, D.C. And I am going to announce an alliance with Fidel Castro's Cuba before the 1962 American midterm election.
Let's sing about that.
We are the new game in town, that's right, the Soviet Union, we come to town, we don't mess around, we get you turned all around, we'll flip the world upside down, maybe we're in over our heads, but no matter how it ends, whatever V.I. Lenin said, we are the new game in town. We're a lot like you, and we like the Caribbean too. For Communism is the way to neutralize imperial sway. You're so yesterday, you're in decay. You know you're in our way, it's underway. Come what may, come what may. We are the new game in town. We are the new game in town. We are the new game in town. We are the new game in town.
Madame Khrushchev. Khrushchev. What about President Kennedy?
Yes. We are going to have President Kennedy right where we want him. Tied to the railroad tracks when a nuclear locomotive is coming.
Father, isn't that a bit risky?
Let me tell you a story about a man who had to move in with his goat after falling on hard times. Though he didn't like the smell, he eventually became accustomed to it. Russia had been living with the goat, the NATO countries like Turkey, Greece, Spain, for a long time. And now America will have to get used to its own goat, Cuba.
Father, if your daring Cuba gamble works, you'll be held as the greatest communist since Karl Marx. But if it backfires, it could mean World War III. And then comes your next little problem.
Which is?
That you two are tied to the railroad tracks with President Kennedy.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. I'm tired of looking weak to Khrushchev. The Russians sent a man into space while our rockets blow up on the launch pad for the whole world to see. Lyndon.
A warm White House welcome for Lyndon Baines Johnson. He's JFK's vice president, an expert on congressional legislation and outer space exploration.
Lyndon, how can we beat the Russians into outer space?
Maybe we can beat them to the moon.
How soon can we get to the moon?
Wagons west and rockets east. No limit to what we can achieve. We'll be first ones to the moon. The path is clear and the time is soon. There it go, we'll be first to the moon. There's a new frontier to explore. We'll do it while we win this Cold War. We'll be second to none. We know how to get the job done. America will be second to none. Everything is new in the new frontier. Everything is just more clear out here. Over the horizon, like it was before. Everyone in, make for that far shore. There's a new frontier to explore. We'll do it while we win this Cold War. We'll be second to none. We know how to get the job done. America will be second to none. Over the horizon, this will be the one. America will be second to none. America will be second to none. America will be second to none. Yeehaw!
Good job, Lyndon. I feel a speech coming on. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because the challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
The White House pool is warm to soothe JFK's aching back. And something else is going on in the pool as well. Something hot.
Mr. President, we have a situation.
Can't you see I'm busy?
But, Mr. President,
What national catastrophe is it now? A new steel price hike? Civil rights? Do I have to phone Martin Luther King's wife to help get him out of jail again?
no, sir.
All right. So, can we not consider me busy?
I see, sir, but
Have we some great international crisis then? What ridiculousness is Khrushchev up to now? Something in Cuba? No, not Berlin again.
it's worse, Mr. President. Mrs. Kennedy is coming down the hall. She's on her way here to the swimming pool.
Mayday! Mayday! Abandon ship! Abandon ship!
Joining our festivities now is actor and socialite Peter Lawford. He is a friend of Marilyn Monroe. He is, in the words of Frank Sinatra, the brother in Lawford of JFK.
Listen, Peter. J. Edgar Hoover is giving me a hard time over JFK's affair with Judith Campbell. In case you didn't know, that woman who Sinatra introduced him to also happened to be sleeping with that mobster Sam Giancana. Please tell Sinatra that the president will be staying at Bing Crosby's instead from the 24th to the 26th.
Oh, great. Frank will just love to hear that the president will be staying at a Republican's estate.
Well, you can blame it on the Secret Service. Crosby's place is better suited.
Frank really might kill me, Bobby. He's put in extra phone lines, telexes, a teleport, and he even stuck a flagpole, just like the one in the Hyannis.
Nobody asked Mr. Sinatra to stick anything in anywhere, Peter.
Frank was counting on this place becoming the new West Coast White House.
Look, Peter, JFK cannot sleep in the house of a man who played host to hoodlums. You know that!
So, despite my objections, and Frank's disappointment, RFK moved JFK to Bing Crosby's estate. And as a result, everyone got screwed here. Frank got screwed out of his California White House. I got screwed royally. Sinatra barely even spoke to me again. The bastard even replaced me in his next Rat Pack movie. With Bing Crosby, no less. And the final screwing of this episode, between the president and Marilyn Monroe, took place at the Crosby's estate.
In a twist of fate, the president and I had a night. We played our comedy, all right. It was bittersweet, bittersweet. Tristan the night away. In the blink of an eye, in the shape of my heart, in the time of my life, in a world apart. We were Tristan the night away. We were Tristan the night away. We were Tristan the night away.
So, how do things go with the president?
I'm going to marry him.
She was the late, great Marilyn Monroe. She got what she got, and she didn't hear no.
You're going to what? You can't, Marilyn. He's already married.
Where is dear Jackie, by the way? She seems to be missing in action. Anyway, Peter, seriously, I married Arthur the author and Mr. Baseball. Why not, Mr. President? Why shouldn't one powerhouse marry another?
The president will never get a divorce.
Really? I, little Norma Jean Baker, have spent the last 10 years making successful movies for 20th Century Fox. What has Jackie ever done besides working an $11 a day job as the inquiring photographer, asking men on the street, so what would you do on a date with Marilyn Monroe?
What has she ever done? She married John Fitzgerald Kennedy. She is the First Lady. She is a Bouvier. She is the mother of his children.
I'm hot. It's my spot.
And we know that some like it hot. I am flirty, bubbly, sassy, and fun. We all know how gentlemen always prefer blondes. I do for him what Viagra does for you men. My movie Niagara, have you see it again? I'm hot, she's not. She is cold and distant. She's in Virginia, a debutante, a brunette, an aristocrat with too much etiquette. The president is the prince and I am his showgirl. He will be mine and we'll tell the whole world. It's 6 years plus and he's got that 7-year itch. Who is counting? I know how to marry really rich. Take your best shot. Something's got to give. I will wait here at the bus stop. I know we're just a couple of misfits, but together or whatever. Together an icon and a legend will live. Something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. Together an icon and a legend will live. Something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. Something's got to give. Something's.
On May 19th, 1962, President Kennedy celebrated his 45th birthday at Madison Square Garden in New York City.
Mr. President, Marilyn Monroe! Marilyn Monroe! Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
I can now retire from politics after having happy birthday sung to me in such a sweet and wholesome way.
I'm fun. I'm number one.
She is crass, has no class.
I know how sex rules the heart, not the head, in bed.
I know the rules by heart. In my head, in my bed, something's gotta give.
Mr. President, I'm hot to trot, and I give a lot.
Jack, Jackie, John, I'm of French descent, well bred.
Hollywood and pop culture, 10 box office breaking movies.
Private school, real culture, former debutante with a degree.
Superstar, the Marilyn Monroe, a diva.
From Vassar, Jacqueline Lee Bouvier.
I will not wait in limbo.
First lady, not a bimbo.
Something's gotta give. Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir? See, I speak French too.
Time for bedtime frolics.
Yeah!
As the famous philosopher Groucho Marx once said, behind every successful man is a woman, and behind her is his wife.
Jack, whose panties are these?
So that's where I left them. Jack, tell her those panties are mine.
Aren't they yours, Jackie?
Not even close to my size. I trust that you'll return them to their rightful owner. Are those panties Marilyn Monroe's? Really, Jack? Marilyn Monroe in the Lincoln bedroom? I have always put up with your indiscretions, Jack, as long as they didn't get out to the public. But Marilyn Monroe, for God's sake, after she very publicly sang you that very gaudy, very bawdy rendition of Happy Birthday, Mr. President. Jack, how can you do this to me? I bring youth and glamour to the White House. Look how everyone is copying my style. We entertain Nobel Peace Prize winners here. That bimbo Marilyn Monroe couldn't converse with de Gaulle about French culture when you accompanied me to Paris.
Jackie, marriages are give and take. When you wear $30,000 ball gowns and very expensive designer clothes, I get an earful from the press.
What do you expect, Jack? I am the most visible patron of the arts. I need to wear the designer names.
But there's resentment and envy in the land. Some Americans see your extravagances as over the top and not becoming of your role as First Lady. What's more, do you remember your fiasco with Khrushchev that time we met him in Vienna? You tried to talk Tolstoy with him, and all he wanted to do was debate you about Russian GNP, like he did with Nixon at their kitchen debate. Talk about being tone deaf, Jackie.
Now, if you had chosen me, Mr. President, think how different things might have been. I met Khrushchev in 1959 and charmed the pants off of him. I didn't know who he was, but then my studio informed me that in Russia, America meant two things, Coca-Cola and Marilyn Monroe, and they wanted me to meet him. When the big day came, my studio wanted me to wear my tightest, sexiest little black lace dress. And after lunch when I met him, I figured him to be a simple rural clod. But then I turned on the Marilyn Monroe act, all wide-eyed and gushy, and I delivered a line that Natalie Wood, who was fluent in Russian, taught me to say. We, the workers of 20th Century Fox, rejoice that you have come to visit our studio and country. It worked like magic. Khrushchev couldn't take his eyes off me. I think it was my Russian, but one can't rule out the distinct possibility that he couldn't take his eyes off my boobs. Mr. President, we both know your wife can't take care of you like I can. She's an ice princess in matters of the flesh. Sure, she can decorate the White House in 18th century finery and dress like Cinderella going to the ball. She is also capable of selling that phony Camelot story to the American public. But you and I know that can only go so far. Who says I couldn't have learned the role of First Lady? Just give me a script. Who says I couldn't have been a more popular First Lady? I was an actress. I could pull off anything. I'm a way better actress than Jackie, unless she is faking that orgasm. Mr. President, not divorcing her and marrying me was the worst mistake you ever made.
Jack, are you listening to me? Now I know you almost died 1,000,000 times in your life. That's why you live life fully. On the edge, you proudly live every day as if it's your last. But if the country connects the dots about your affair with Marilyn, or any of your other bimbos, I will be personally humiliated. And that would be a disaster for your presidency. Do you really want to risk that? I have to ask, Jack, from your affairs to your foreign policy, is your true Kennedy nature really that reckless? Why are you so reckless? Or do you disagree? Does it have to be that obvious when you do these things to me? How could you be so foolish? What didn't I ever do for you? Can you tell me now, can't you? Is it just not in you to be true? Is it just about the power that you hold over me? Isn't it finally time to say enough's enough? Don't you know how everyone can see? How could you be so stupid? Your dalliance with stars, reckless in your judgment. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Oh, who do you think you are?
So be honest, Dave. Would you have been able to resist? What if you had known you were going to die at the age of 56? I almost died 4 or 5 times. Before I was 25, reset the last rites for me. I know that my disease surely is killing me. But why let it go by, or take it in stride, or keeping it all inside? Hell no, go live your life, do what is right, at least what is right tonight. Live each night like tonight might be the last night here on earth. Live each night like tonight might be the last night here on earth. I found a line to reflect the truth that we are light on time, a truth yours and mine. How we shine half as long, but twice as bright. But I let it go by, or take it in stride, or keeping it all on the sidelines. Hell no, go live your life, go live in fright, at least what is right tonight. Live your life like tonight might be the last night here on earth. Live each night like tonight might be your last night here on earth. Live each night like tonight might be your last night here on earth. Live each night like tonight might be your last night here on earth, here on earth.
sure, Jackie could be political eye candy for JFK. She could impress America with her televised White House tours. She could invite Pablo Casals to play there. And JFK would say,
On our trip to Europe last year, I got along with de Gaulle partly because you mesmerized him with your knowledge of French culture and history, all of which made it easy for me to poke fun at myself, saying, I am the man who accompanied Jacqueline Kennedy to Paris.
yes, Jackie could charm old men like de Gaulle with glories of Versailles. She tried to delight Khrushchev with talk of Tolstoy, thrilled Adelaide Stevenson at the opera. But we know you didn't really go for that highbrow stuff, and you would secretly mock your wife's cultural tastes. She could also never keep a man happy the way I could. I introduced him to the Broadway song, I Believe in You, from How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. You loved that one. In fact, remember your intern Mimi Beardsley used to sing it to you to turn you on and to help you get off. JFK even had sex with me in the Lincoln bedroom, as preposterous as that may sound. I mean, how can Marilyn Monroe go around the White House without being known? I just paraded around like I was the second Jackie Kennedy in a black wig and dark glasses. And the staff and staff managed to keep the president's affairs with me and all the rest secret all through the JFK White House years. JFK was going to have to decide soon. Did he want Jackie, who got foreplay tips from a sex doctor to try to keep Jack monogamous? Or did JFK want to marry me and divorce her, and to marry me, the sex goddess of the 20th century? Ugh, decisions, decisions. Ugh, when will the charade end? JFK loves me. He's going to divorce you, Jackie, and marry me. I'm going to move into the White House.
Yes, Jack will surely divorce me and marry you. And then you'll move into the White House. Marilyn, why don't you tell me your chest size so I can have a custom-made straitjacket ready for you when you move in? Dumb blonde.
No dumb blonde was I, but urban legends prove hard to die. I was typecast as your basic dumb blonde. In Tinseltown I played the part with a magic wand. Easy to see I was troubled and distraught. Dumb for short, it matters of the heart. I was an actor playing a role, but now it's time to take my leave. I leave it for you, dear audience, to decide. Dumb blonde for real, or dumb blonde for make-believe. Dumb blonde for dumb blonde for make-believe, dumb blonde for real, or dumb blonde for make-believe, dumb blonde for real, or dumb blonde for make-believe.
In the summer of '62, when Washington wives were away and politicians were able to play, did someone pull some strings to get Mimi Beardsley a summer internship, to put her there to fulfill this fling? This was Guinevere who was to have this fling. Instead of Jackie's Camelot, Mimi screws the king a lot.
Well, in 1962, Mimi Beardsley became the White House intern. And the 19-year-old intern, yes, JFK's Monica, replaced me as JFK's lover. Here's how it happened. On her 4th day on the job, Dave Power, the first friend, invited her to swim in the White House pool. With friends like Dave.
Mind if I join you?
Oh, of course not, Mr. President.
You look familiar. Have we met before?
As a matter of fact, we have, Mr. President. I came to the White House last year to interview Mrs. Kennedy. I was the editor of the school newspaper at Miss Porter's.
Prep school.
Yes. And Mrs. Kennedy's social secretary, Tish Baldridge, also an alum from Miss Porter's, introduced us at the time.
It's Mimi, isn't it?
Yes, Mr. President.
And you're going to be in the press office this summer, right?
Yes, again, Mr. President.
Well, very nice to see you, Mimi. I look forward to seeing more of you.
And a few hours later, Dave Powers invited Mimi upstairs for a welcome to the staff get-together.
Would you like a private tour of the residence, Mimi? This is Mrs. Kennedy's bedroom. This is a very private room. Haven't you done this before, dear? Oh, well, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay?
Yes, Mr. President. I'll do anything you want. Well, if JFK asked you to serve your country, and you were 19 and a virgin, wouldn't you? Be honest with yourself. I was young and inexperienced, and he was handsome and charismatic and the president. I was safer sex than Marilyn Monroe could ever be, and I was available on call at the White House. So all that summer of 1962, I would swim with the president and then wait for the call to join him upstairs in the residence quarters. And these booty calls were almost a daily occurrence since Mrs. Kennedy and the children were away from home vacationing for most of the summer months. At Miss Porter's, they treated us like daughters, taught us about the tour and culture, how to be demure in order to procure a man of great wealth and stature. At 19, my heart was pure. The president chose me, what a whore. And I would be whatever he needed me to be. I must be the luckiest girl in the world, the most powerful man in the world, wanting me. As far as I can see, I'll be whatever he needs me to be, 'cause the luckiest girl in the world is me. As far as I can see, I'll be whatever he needs me to be, 'cause the luckiest girl in the world will be whatever he needs me to be, whatever he needs me to be, whatever he needs me to be, whatever he needs me to be.
Who's the new girl?
Who's the new girl? Who's the new girl? I am the new girl in town.
Want you to know
Who brought me to town? Who bought me this gown? Introduced me around to turn your world upside down. Maybe I'm in over my head. This society dip who ended up in Lincoln's bed. I am the new girl in town. I'm a lot like you. yesterday. No bills to pay, no children in the way. I'm here to stay, so let him play, let him play. I am the new girl in town. I am the new girl in town. I am the new girl in town. I am the new girl in town.
While Mimi felt like the luckiest girl in the world, I felt like the unluckiest. My world was crashing down. I was missing for days at a time from the set of my latest movie, ironically called Something's Gotta Give. I was 36 years old and my movie career was in jeopardy. Dear Bobby Kennedy came to Hollywood to inform me that my affair with JFK was over and to help smooth out things with my studio. I had made hit after hit for them for 10 years, but the bastards had unceremoniously canned me. I think I lost my earring, Bobby. Can you help me find it?
Oh, Marilyn, why don't we go and retrace your steps together?
Last time I remember seeing it, I was in the master bedroom.
Good, let's go there and find it. Oh, say, Peter, will you help us? Can you search the other wing of the house and check the driveway? Keep a close eye on the driveway, actually.
Peter, it's very late. I've had a lot to drink already, Peter. Oh, I'm out of here, really. I mean, I'm emotionally dead anyway. I'll take a lot of sleeping pills and please tell your wife Pat goodbye for me. Now, Peter, say goodbye, Norma Jean.
Again, Marilyn? Look, just get some rest. And you'll get over it. You'll feel much better in the morning.
August 5th, 1962. Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her home in Los Angeles. Cause of death, barbiturate overdose.
Sadly, Peter didn't take my cry for help or my suicide threat seriously. And then, well, it was too late.
Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe.
Wake up, Jack, you know that life is in your hands. Don't let me go, the worst mistake you'll ever make. Always remember to hold on to what's at stake. This one small planet we all share, how we all breathe the same air. All of this world was mine, but all I was yours. No matter what you say, no matter where I go, I'll always just be the late Marilyn. No matter what you say, no matter where I go, I'll always just be the late Marilyn Monroe. Just one small step, it's up to you. Make your best move, the world will follow you. Just one small step, it's up to you. Make your best move, we'll all follow you. No matter what you say, no matter where I go, I'll always just be the late Marilyn. No matter what you say, no matter where I go, I'll always just be the late Marilyn. No matter what you say, no matter where I go, I'll always just be the late Marilyn. No matter what you say, always just be late. Marilyn Monroe, Marilyn Monroe, the late Marilyn Monroe, the late Marilyn Monroe, the late Marilyn Monroe, the late Marilyn Monroe.
It is October 16, 1962 in the White House, the date and time when the Cuban Missile Crisis began.
We're going to take a brief intermission.
When do we come? 10 minutes, right?
So, as I said before, it is October 16, 1962 in the White House, the date and time when the Cuban Missile Crisis began.
Mr. President, these YouTube photos taken over Cuba show conclusively the existence of Russian nuclear missiles just 90 miles from Florida.
Celebrated Air Force General Curtis LeMay saw this Cuban Missile Crisis as a perfect opportunity to bomb the commies to hell.
I love you, you too. There's just nothing you can't do for me to make all those bleeding hearts see what those atheists and communists intend to do with the land of the free. I love you too. Slender and beautiful, you fly so true. Higher than the highest mountain, higher than the others do. I love you, you too. I love you, you too. Slender and beautiful, you fly so true. Higher than the tallest mountain, higher than the others do. I love you, you too. Oh, I love you, you too.
Those lying bastards. Ambassador Dobrynin told me there were no Russian missiles in Cuba. And Foreign Minister Gromyko denied that there were any missiles in Cuba that could reach the U.S. RFK!
And we've only got that loser Stevenson on TV at the UN to confront the Russians.
Well, that loser, American UN Ambassador Adlai Stevenson, tackled his Soviet counterpart, Valerian Zorin, at an emergency session of the Security Council of the UN. And Russia secretly had installed nuclear weapons in Cuba. The Russians repeatedly stonewalled the United States questions with non-answers. We now present Adlai Stevenson's finest hour at the United Nations.
Okay, Ambassador Zorin, what's up with these weapons you're storing? You say these missiles don't exist, even though we know they all would miss. We have evidence that you can't be trusted. You caught red-handed, and you are so busted. So don't wait for the translation. Don't wait for the translation, yes or no. Yes or no. wait until hell freezes over, just for you to tell us the truth. I came here today with photographic evidence, and I'm prepared to show it in this room. I'm prepared to wait until hell freezes over. Well, I'm prepared to wait until hell freezes over. Well, I'm prepared to wait until hell freezes over, just for you to tell us the truth. Just for you to tell us the truth.
I'll wait till hell freezes over. That Stevenson grew some balls!
Mr. President, we must bomb those missile sites now. This crazy idea of yours of a naval blockade of Cuba would seem weak to the American people. Why, a blockade is almost as bad as appeasement at Munich.
Now let me get this straight, General. You are proposing instead an all-out air attack on those missiles in Cuba, followed by an actual invasion of Cuba?
Correct, Mr. President.
You think that the Russians will take the loss of thousands of their soldiers, and not to mention all those nuclear weapons, and not do anything?
That is correct, sir. They won't do a thing. They know they would lose a nuclear war to overwhelming American superiority.
And if you're wrong, General, if you've miscalculated, and if Mr. Khrushchev responds to our wiping out those missiles and killing the thousands of Russians manning those missiles with an all-out nuclear war with the United States, and if I, as the president, have to answer to at least 80 million American dead, what then, General? What then?
Tell them, Mr. President, that sometimes the shit hits the fan.
Bobby, if we let the General Amaze of the world steamroll me into invading Cuba, Khrushchev will retaliate with nuclear weapons. Then we have to respond in kind.
That's unthinkable. If we think this is common sense, questions of consequence, we better think again. We better think again. If we think we're unbreakable, think this world ain't unmakeable, you better think again. You better think again. We are in a completely new situation that cannot be resolved by war. Just the slightest wrong miscalculation, and then no one will ever know what all the dying was for. Oh, unthinkable. Oh, unthinkable. Oh, unthinkable.
And now, meet Ted Sorensen, JFK's principal speechwriter and conscience of the war.
These two men must figure out a way to stop the guns of August. That book JFK wanted everyone to read about the diplomats who stumbled into World War I. We must stop World War III. I hope they decide on the quarantine and stop playing war games with Khrushchev. This crisis is for all Americans and is for real. And it is not a test of the emergency broadcast system. We interrupt your normal programming to bring you this important bulletin. We believe the United States is currently experiencing a nuclear attack. Please take all precautions necessary. This is not a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is not a test of the emergency broadcast system.
Bobby, we gotta cool things down before the world blows up. Maybe this blockade quarantine thing might buy Khrushchev and us some time till cooler heads prevail.
The rest of the generals won't give their honest opinions with you there. Why don't you go on campaigning in Chicago and leave things with me to work out with the generals?
When I need help, I can always count on you, Bobby.
This is really happening. If we ever hear walls closing in, as we surely would if we would ever listen, if we ever see giant tidal waves sweeping crashing down across the landscape, we take advantage while we can. We take it all for granted since it all began. It's time we make ourselves a new and better plan while we can. While we can. If we ever hear the ceiling caving in, as we surely would if we would ever pay attention, if we ever hear a mock-wise stem sing, well past time to say that this is really happening. We take advantage while we can. We take it all for granted since it all began. It's time to make ourselves a new and better plan while we can. While we can. While we can.
Bobby, maybe you will be the hero in that alternate version of the Missiles of October book, the one where we work things out. A blockade of Cuba at least gives us a possible way out. I don't want somebody writing a book about how we stumbled into nuclear superpower confrontation, called the Missiles of October.
Jack, an invasion is out. There's not enough time and logistics to make things happen. Bombing the sites is out too. The military cannot guarantee we can get all of them. I don't want to reverse Pearl Harbor on our hands anyway. The quarantine is on then.
October 22nd, 1962, President Kennedy, in a nationwide televised address on all major networks, announces that the Russian missiles have been discovered in Cuba.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union. We shall call upon the U.S. Navy to enact a strategic quarantine of Cuba, a blockade permitted to call a spade a spade. We'll stop and search all inbound ships and all offensive weapons turned away.
The Americans have blinked.
What do you mean, Premier Khrushchev?
The Americans have shown weakness by overreacting. Seems that Kennedy went to sleep with a wooden knife.
What do you mean, wooden knife?
They say that when someone goes bear hunting for the first time, he takes a wooden knife with him. So it's easier to clean the mess in his pants.
What, 3 days into the showdown with the United States, some Soviet officials were wondering who was more in need of that wooden knife, the president or Khrushchev. Khrushchev quickly realized that his something's gotta give was the Russian missiles in Cuba. He sent a panicky letter to the president offering to take out the missiles in exchange for an American pledge never to invade Cuba. But before the United States could respond, he sent a harsher letter adding that the U.S. must pull out American missiles from Turkey in exchange for the removal of missiles from Cuba.
Dave, get Mimi here this weekend. I want her at the White House night and day. And if I'm gonna die, I wanna die with a smile on my face.
We interrupt your normal programming to bring you this test of the emergency broadcast system. This is just a test in case the United States comes under attack. Please take all precautions necessary. Everybody, duck and cover under your seats. You in the back, duck and cover under your seat. Poor thing. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. Let's go back to sleep. All right. Okay. 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 All right. So, as I was saying, I didn't see anybody moving to duck and cover.
I guess we feel very safe.
A little. Oh, I see a man with a beard. Can you duck a little bit? Oh, that's good. Okay. So, this has only been a test. Should a nuclear attack have occurred, the duck and move cover can be your friend. I repeat, should there be a nuclear attack, the duck and cover mover can be your friend. So this has been a test of the emergency broadcast system.
That hair treatment feels good. It really relaxes me before these press conferences. I tell Jackie that everybody is wild about her performance hairstyle. But she insists that everybody is wild over my hair. Say, Mimi, why don't you come around here and rock and roll with your Elvis?
I don't think there's enough time before the press conference.
Okay, so how about a quickie? Mimi, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Mimi, This is the Oval Office desk, a very special place. And this Oval Office desk is a very special desk. Mimi, do you want to go behind the Oval Office desk to duck and cover for me? Come here, Mimi. Got a favor to ask of you. Now you mind going down and getting under the desk now? Mimi, really, really need you now to duck and cover for me.
Mr. President, I readily consent. We'll be circumspect, no on behalf of you. But the country needs you stable, so I'll get under the table. Yes, sir, I'll duck and cover for you.
Don't worry, Mimi. I'll let you know when it's safe to uncover. It's already down below. It's all ready for you to discover.
Mr. President, I'll give this my 100%. I know how much you need your attention, please. But I smile when I think how clear you will be when you've been ducked and covered by me.
Oh yeah, Mimi, the way you duck and cover this don't change what we have with one another. This rash is gonna launch you when you duck and cover. Everybody needs you now to duck and cover. Everybody needs you now to duck and cover. Everybody needs you now to duck and cover for me.
Listen, Jack, if it comes to the end of the world, the children and I want to be there with you. I want to be with you. I'll be on the front lawn with you, facing the end courageously.
You will be safer in Virginia than here. For the sake of the children, please just stay put.
Mr. President, those dark circles under your eyes are awful. I'm grateful you had Dave Powers bring me down here from college to comfort you.
And I am touched that you wanted to join me here in this dangerous time and place. Mimi, have you heard the joke going around school all over America now? It's not what do you want to be when you grow up, but what do you want to be if you grow up? Mimi, do you want children of your own someday? I dearly wish that for you, in a fatherly way. I will do anything so that the children and grandchildren of this world have a chance to live out their lives to the fullest. You're young, Mimi, but you've got a long life ahead.
Mr. President, you're not so old yourself. You've got a long life ahead of yourself, too.
Think of my children, John and Caroline, and I want their lives full till the end of their time. They're young and I want to see them gracefully age, certainly not to become pawns in a nuclear exchange. Freedom gives a choice, how we rise or fall. But better dead than red leaves no choice at all. It seems a quarantine is what we're about. Maybe this blockade is our strategic way out. I want a second term. I want to save the young. I want to see it through and save the world before it's done. Here we make a choice, how we rise or fall. But better dead than red leaves no choice at all. Here we make a choice, how we rise or fall. But better dead than red leaves no choice at all. Leaves no no choice at all. Leaves no choice at all.
Whenever our U-2 flight passed straight over Russian territory, the Russians have shot down another of our U-2s over Cuba and killed the pilot.
What else could go wrong?
American ships near Cuba are trying to force Russian submarines that are armed with nuclear missiles to the surface.
That's all we need. A nuclear war is going to break out because some poor dumb bastard submarine captain didn't get the message.
And LeMay wants an attack on the Cuban missile sites by Monday if the Russians don't agree to our terms. Why don't we ignore the second letter and just answer the first letter? Let me drop the response with Ted Sorensen and take it to the Russian ambassador.
What if the Russians insist on the Turkey for Cuba trade in writing?
I'll tell them we'll pull the missiles out of Turkey in 4 or 5 months, but we can't put it in writing. I'll tell the ambassador that time is short. I'll say that if we don't get an answer soon, LeMay is ready to start bombing tomorrow.
God, Dave, the way that you're eating up all that chicken and drinking up all my wine, anybody would think this was your last supper.
Well, the way Bobby's been talking, I thought it was. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die on a full stomach.
So if this is your last supper, then eat dessert first. If we don't, why don't we go and watch a movie in the screening room? It might calm us down.
What do you want to watch?
Put on Roman Holiday. Dave, have I told you about my affair with the star of that movie, Audrey Hepburn?
Not recently, Mr. President.
So time has stopped, allows us to reflect.
So quiet and serene, allows us to forget.
We might never get another sunset,
Or smoke another cigarette.
we might not even finish our duet.
We might never see another sunrise.
Never see the time pass in your eyes.
But looking on the bright side, I'll never go up a dress size. Oh,
You are my last night on earth, lover. Left no time to out for any others.
time is magnified when we come open-eyed to see the skies and the light. Take one last ride with your summer pride, last place to hide from the suicide outside.
You are my last night on earth, lover. You are my last night on earth.
You are my last night on earth, lover. You are my last night on earth.
But on October 28th, 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis ended.
Then, suddenly and poignantly, the Cuban Missile Crisis came to a climax!
Anyway, on the last day of the Cuban Missile Crisis, Khrushchev backed down. The Soviet premier sent a letter accepting America's terms.
I feel like celebrating tonight. Maybe go to someplace like Ford's Theater.
Americans and Russians had more in common than differences on this one small planet. And their differences weren't worth going to war over. And on June 10, 1963, JFK delivered the Pax Americana speech at American University in Washington, D.C.
Chosen this time and place to discuss a topic on which ignorance abounds, and the truth too rarely perceived. And that is the most important topic on earth. What kind of peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana, not the security of the slave, not a Pax Americana, enforced on the world by American weapons of war. What kind of peace do I mean? What kind of peace do we seek? Not just peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not just peace in our time, but peace in all time. Peace in all time. Peace in all time. Peace in all time. Peace in all
Soon after the Cuban Missile Crisis, President Kennedy perhaps had a premonition about his assassination. He attended a lecture in the White House by Professor Donald, no, not E. Donald, but David Herbert Donald, Pulitzer Prize winning Lincoln biographer and Civil War expert. And JFK asked,
Professor Donald, do you think if Lincoln had lived, would his reputation have been as great as it currently is in the United States?
Probably not. He would have had to have wrestled with the problems of Reconstruction in the post-Civil War era.
Well, given my Cuban Missile success, if anyone's going to kill me, they should do it now.
JFK's whole life was like a death-defying Houdini act. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was read his last rites on 3 occasions. He has had 30-something hospitalizations, including multiple failed back operations, and his medical history didn't even include World War II, when a Japanese destroyer cut his PT-109 in half, almost killing JFK and his crew. No wonder why JFK lived life so fully. Any day might have been his last day on Earth.
Your life like tonight might be the last night here on earth. Live your life like tonight might be the last night here on earth.
Where were you in October of 1960? The world was on the brink of nuclear obliteration. We went eyeball to eyeball, and the other guy blinked, leaving room for clandestine negotiation. Don't let it be forgot that once there was a spot for one brief shining moment that was known as Camelot. I know not a lot about the myth of Camelot, but this I know to be true. John F. Kennedy sure came a lot.
Your life like tonight might be the last night here on earth. Live your life like tonight might be the last night here on earth. Here on earth.
Let's give a hand to our playwright, Phil Becker, from the back. Let's give a hand to Phil Becker, our playwright and lyricist, and Jackie Becker hiding in the back there. And keyboard is Gary, don't forget him. Don't forget anyone else. And to our wonderful cast who worked very hard with this material. Now the floor is open for discussion. Anybody have any questions or would like feedback?
Any kind of feedback, or you can go into dessert, you can have more feedback in there. We have pastry, we have cake and coffee and tea and still more wine and